Welcome to the Live the Call podcast, where I speak with guests living and working their soul's purpose. I'm Pamela Downs, founder of Spirit Calling and trans-channeler of the Great Council of Light. Every episode, our guests share their awakening story, and together we learn how they came to live their spirit's call. Join me in tales of self-discovery, enlightenment, and transformation to amplify your healing journey. Welcome to Live the Call, the podcast where we dive deep into conversations with those who are living their purpose and making an impact. I'm your host, Pamela Downs, and today we have an incredibly inspiring guest, Dr. Lisa Thompson. We're so excited to have her here with us today. Lisa is the best-selling author, speaker, and Galactic Ambassador and channeler, and she's an intuitive transformational coach. Lisa empowers individuals to design their best lives by embracing self-love, trusting their intuition, and taking inspired action. And she's also an evolutionary biologist, which is so cool, with a deep understanding of ancient DNA and intergalactic guidance. So welcome, Lisa. I'm so excited that you're here today. I was on your podcast. We had so many things in common, and we just kept talking and talking and talking. So I get to talk with you today.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see you too. And you have such an interesting story. It's always fun to do like the pre-interviews and get to know people, and then you become friends with people, and you often find, as we did, there's so many similarities in our story. And people are fascinated when they're on their spiritual awakening journey to hear these stories, because they're in the middle of experiencing these things. They're hearing the whispers, they're feeling the pulls. So we do this podcast, Lisa, as an inspiration to those people, to let them see and experience someone who listened, someone who took the courageous steps forward into living with their spirit first and to living their spirit's call. So I would love to talk about, I want to hear your story, number one, and talk about, I know your spiritual awakening will be peppered in there. Like what was the story of Lisa that led her to the work she's doing today? Let's start in the very beginning.
Okay, let's do it. So I actually grew up in a spiritual metaphysical household. So my mother, when she divorced my dad, when I was 2 years old, she moved me from Colorado to Oklahoma City so she could live next to her sister. And she started taking astrology classes. And so, she didn't have a babysitter, so I would get drug along to these astrology classes at night. And all of her friends were psychics and witches and astrologers, numerologists, all tarot card readers, all the things. So that was the normal part of my life. But then when I was 13, she and my aunt, they moved us from Oklahoma to Washington State to attend the Ramtha School of Enlightenment.
Wow.
So this was back in 1986, and the school was actually taught by a channeled ascended master through a lady named J.Z. Knight. And so we were learning about consciousness, higher dimensional reality, extraterrestrials, fairies, all the things in the unseen world, and really how to create your reality. And so, at first, the whole channeling thing, I was like, okay, this is weird. Is it real? But the first time that I actually got to experience Ramtha like live, I was like, okay, that is definitely a different energy coming through. That is not Jay-Z and her personality. And he could read my mind as well, because I was like paralyzed. It was a personal Q&A day. And my voice just was not there. I couldn't ask the question, but I asked it in my head and he answered me.
Wow.
So anyway, so that was through my teen years. But, after a while, I was like, okay, I want to just be a normal teenager. I want to focus on school. And so I stopped going to the events, probably age 16, 17. And then I dove deep into becoming a marine biologist, zoologist. So like you said, I have a PhD in evolutionary biology from University of Chicago. Now, what was interesting is that in my teen years, so my first conscious memory of being taken onto a spacecraft was when I was 15.
You're so young. Yes.
So, and they let me remember that specific experience because I was emotionally mature enough to handle it. And there were synchronistic opportunities for me to realize that it was real. I got it validated by my own knowingness, but also external validation. And so that combined together, it planted a little seed for the work I do now as a Galactic Ambassador and Channeler. But back in the 80s, like, people thought you were absolutely crazy if you talked about ETs and UFOs, right? Tinfoil hat
Right.
wearing people.
Right.
And so I went to grad school and I'm sharing with my cohorts, that, oh yeah, I've been on spacecraft. I interacted with ETs. I believe in Sasquatch, mer people, dragons, fairies. They all thought I was crazy. Again, because here we are, hardcore, mainstream academic,
Yeah.
zoologist,
Hmm.
and not, and so they're just like, how can you believe in this stuff? We have and I'm just like, because I know there's more than just this physical reality. And so I learned very quickly I had to shut myself down, shut that side of myself down to be taken seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that shutdown happened for quite a long time, where I had to hide my spiritual side, my really like ET kind of paranormal side. So I was a professor for a couple of years. Academia was not a good fit because it was way too in the box. Couldn't think outside the box like I did. So then windy path of career of in mortgage for 5 years, interior design, home staging for 12 years. I had a company. And so again, had to be very normal, very grounded. So people would take me seriously. So I'd actually get business. And then it was about 7.5 years ago that I started my spiritual business. Now, back up 10 years ago, I had a scientific hand analysis done. And this is a little different than palm reading, but the lady who read my hands, she had a special where she also read my kids' hands, because she said often there are some themes running through the family. And so we were curious about what that was. And so when she read all three of our hands, we all have a 1% marking right here in our palm. And we were all meant to be spiritual teachers of some sort. And
Wow.
here, like at the time, I had a very successful design business. And I'm like, my body was like, yes, I had the full yes, but my mind was like, I don't even know what I would do. Like, what? I have nothing to share. I have,
Yes, you did.
I am spiritual, but like, what would I teach? What do I have? And so then I started learning about my human design. And so I am a sacral generator. And so for me, what I have to do is wait for opportunities to come across my path. And then my gut will get an immediate response of uh-huh or uh-uh. So I had to play with that. And so it took, again, until about 7.5 years ago for my gut to finally have an opportunity that said, we're doing this. And I was attending a spiritual conference in Arizona, in Phoenix. And one of the breakout sessions was a past life regression session. My teacher, who ended up being my teacher, Denise Lynn. But in that regression session with this audience, I had one of the most profound spiritual experiences that I'd ever had. Like, at that point, I had gone back to the Ramtha school back when I was 28. And I continued that until 2006 when I was pregnant with my daughter. So that was about age 32, 33.
Mhm.
And so I wasn't in the school anymore. I had gone through a horrible couple of marriages. And so I'm at this conference. I have this profound spiritual experience. And immediately I knew, like, I need to get trained in this.
Mhm.
And so I went up at the end of the conference. I went up to Denise and I was like, I'm feeling a strong call to be one of your students. Do you take on students? She's like, sometimes. And that's all she said. But I got put on her email list. Well, 2 days later, I get an email coming, in my inbox saying there was one spot left for her advanced past life regression certification program. And it was going to be in a few weeks from that point. And it was a big chunk of money. And here I was a single mom at the time. And I'm like, I got a
Hmm.
yes, but I'm like, how am I going to do this? Who's going to take care of my kids? How am I going to like take time off out of my business, money, all the logistics. But fortunately, at the time, my partner, who then became my husband, but he was like, well, you have to do this, and whatever I can do to help you, let's do it. And so I went to California and spent, over a week there getting trained. And I started my spiritual business. And so it was huge because that was also when I came back to Olympia. I was living in Olympia, Washington. When I came back, that was me kind of coming out of the spiritual closet because
Mm-hmm.
I still had my interior design business. And now I have this spiritual business side by side. And some of my real estate agents were like, they were not liking it too
Like,
much,
this is a
but
little different.
it is. And yeah, but I did my best to really feel comfortable in my own skin and
Hmm.
know that, you know, I can't hide this side of myself anymore.
Yeah.
So then we ended up getting trained in human design. And so I was doing, regressions and human design. And then it was just over 3.5 years ago that I moved from Olympia to Hawaii. And that is what really opened up my galactic world again. Because even though I was doing the spiritual work, ET stuff was still super weird. Like people were not accepting of that. And the government disclosure hadn't happened and, the leaks and all of that. And so when I moved here to Hawaii, I was like, oh my God, there's so much UFO spacecraft activity here in the islands. And I had done a UFO tour in Sedona, Arizona, 5.5 years ago with the family. And so that planted the seed for, well, oh my gosh, let me start a UFO tour business under my spiritual business here in Hawaii. And so what that did was it really opened me up. I was sharing some of my stories, my experiences with my guests. And I've written other books in my spiritual business, but I started writing down my stories kind of as blogs, and I was putting it out on social media. And some of my friends, they were like, I feel a new book coming on. And so all I need is something like that to be like, my gut was like,
Uh,
yep, let's do it. And so I wrote my book, Connection to the Cosmos, Remembering Your Galactic Heritage and Embracing Your Oneness. And I started my podcast that you were on, Connection to the Cosmos with Dr. Lisa Thompson. And so I really was like, okay, am I fully stepping into my role as a galactic ambassador? What I was meant to be doing all along.
yeah.
My mom, she was like, do you really want to be the UFO lady? And
Yes, I do.
I'm like, yep.
It's
And
time.
right. And my husband, he was like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah. He
And
started this. He started this. He gave you that opportunity.
he did. And like all along, he was very supportive in my work. Now he was on the fence about some of it for sure,
Hmm.
but he was always very supportive. So then, as I'm writing that Connection to the Cosmos book, and oh, let me back up. So October of 2018, so 6 years ago, I was taking a psychic intuition class for several months. But the first night of class, our teacher led us through a meditative journey to meet a spirit guide that would help us get extra information if we needed it. Now, I had already met lots of human and animal guides through my regression work, but this time, completely different realm. And in front of me were the most beautiful blue skinned beings.
Mm.
And their message to me was, you are one of us. We are one of you. We are family. And then there was a group of them, but the front one was the spokesperson. And we were to ask if they had a name they wanted to be called. And so the name that was given was Uluru. And then I was presented a gift of a crystal, a quartz, kind of a quartz crystal. And I didn't know what the crystal represented until a lot later. And I didn't know who they were either. So I come out of the journey and everyone's going around class sharing who their spirit guides are. And I'm talking about, these blue skin beings. Everyone else is normal humans. And there happened, again, I love synchronicity. There happened to be a lady in class who knew some of the different ET races and what they look like. And she was like, it sounds like you're talking about either the Arcturians or the blue avians. And so I had to go home and Google what those were at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had seen spacecraft throughout my life and I'd been on craft, I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole yet of the ET races. So as soon as I saw the images of the Arcturians, it's exactly what I had seen in this journey. So again, validation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was writing my book, Connection to the Cosmos, they were like, we really want to start channeling through you. And I'm like, oh, I grew up in a channeled school and, everyone thought it was so weird. And I kind of thought it was weird too. Like, how can I be a channel? And so fortunately, I had been watching Ruben Langdon's show interviews with EDs on Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
And that normalized that, okay, regular people can channel these different beings. And so that show was actually my inspiration for like, oh, I can do this. I just have to get over my own ego
Yeah.
of what other people think of me. It's none of my
Mm-hmm.
business. It is natural to channel. And
Mm-hmm.
so they started writing first through me because that's how I felt comfortable. And then at one point, I actually had one of my podcast guests, who's one of my publishers. She's been channeling Kuan Yin for like 20 years. And
Oh yeah.
so I was like, Kira, you should do a channeling class and I'll take it, a vocal channeling class. And so she did. And so that actually is what helped open up my vocal channel to the Arcturians. And it was very strange at first. But again, I just had to go with the flow. And so then they started channeling messages through me. And then, so that was in 2022. And then in 2023, at the beginning of the year, they were like, okay, you've practiced with us, brought those energies. Now you really are a galactic ambassador. You are really meant to share a lot of different information, not just us. And so they're like, okay, you're going to bring in 12 additional groups. So we're going to do 13 sessions over the next few months. And you're going to let each of these groups come through you and share their wisdom. And so, I set it up as a class type thing. And I really just had to trust.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what was going to come through. They gave me some of the themes for each group so that I could like put it out there, for marketing purposes, because I did it
Mm-hmm.
as a class. But I had no idea what they were going to do with that information. And so 13 different sessions and 13 different higher dimensional galactic races came through. And so that turned into my most recent book, Wisdom of the Galactics, Channeled Messages to Elevate Your Life. And so,
Wow.
um, I think being here in Hawaii, there's a lot of vortex energy here on our island. The veil between dimensions is thinner. So just having the regular interactions with the spacecraft, they show up for me like every night that
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there looking for them. They always show up in different ways. And so really like I had to just be like, this is who I am, throw away all the masks,
Mm-hmm.
as scary as it might be. And, with the realization that, I may lose people in my life. But I had done that because this is my fourth career. So I have gone through different seasons of my life where people resonate with you at a certain level and then you change and then they don't resonate and fall out of your life. And so I've
Yeah.
had to be okay with that. And it has happened even, you know, I don't know if we want to talk about the husband that
Oh,
was so supportive,
right. Yeah, of
but
course. It's your story.
okay. So just over a year ago, he committed suicide. And
Wow.
so that that was a really, I'll say, interesting experience because
Mm-hmm.
number one, it was completely out of the blue. Like he was one of the kind of people who always showed a happy face, like to friends. Now he would come home really angry about his work though.
Mm-hmm.
So, and So he had a lot of stuff going on, but he wouldn't talk about it.
Mm.
And he just was really good at hiding it. And I happened to be leading one of my galactic retreats at the time. And I was doing it in the neighborhood that I had rented condos. And so I wasn't even here at the house. I wasn't staying here. And so I it was the second night into the retreat, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, I need to go home and get the eggs out of the refrigerator for the next morning, because we had already gone through the first package of eggs. And so I discovered him when I went home. And
Wow.
so what was interesting was, and again, total shock. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to do. But the next morning, I was sitting at the condo, just sitting out on the lanai. The ladies were at the other condo giving me space. And I was talking to the trees. And there was this energy field. And I was just like, really? Why did this have to happen? Because what I felt like, it was a major timeline jump that
Hmm.
had happened. And so the trees were like, yes, it had to be something so extreme, because you have been really so focused on what you are here to do as a galactic ambassador, that you needed something. And so fortunately I have the deep spiritual background to process those emotions, the grief. And what I Skip, my husband, he came through very fast. I've got different psychic medium friends. And so my teacher that had taught me those many months back in Olympia, the psychic intuition class, I went to her first. I was like, is he ready to talk yet? And she checks it and she's like, oh my God, he's so excited to talk to you. And so one of the things that he said is that, how I was kind of on the fence about the stuff that you do, and, your beliefs and your understanding about everything. He's like, it's all real. Keep doing what you're doing. He said,
That's amazing.
yeah, he said, because I was on the fence, I was holding you back. I couldn't support you in the physical realm the way that you really needed support. He said, but
Hmm.
I can get so much more from this other side, and I will bring you opportunities.
Hmm.
I will help you. And
Yeah.
so that piece, is like really comforting, of like, okay. And what's interesting is that when he said that, I did reflect back of like, he kind of like, he was not, I mean, I still love him, but like, I loved him, but he was creating kind of a resistance for me to do the work. Like, I couldn't do it in the same way that I am doing now,
Hmm.
because of his hesitancy with it.
Yeah. It was a pivotal moment and it was a contract and it was finished.
Yeah.
And he is supporting you now on the other side, which is what he was supposed to do all along.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that, because it's
Yeah.
really an intimate glimpse into your life. Do you continue to talk with him and to receive guidance from your friend?
So I do,
Good.
not,
Yeah.
not as, not, well, and he also came through other psychic medium friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he also was sharing similar information through them, and they don't know each other. So,
How
again,
cool.
all confirmation validation.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the really, he comes in different ways to me. So one of the ways that he came pretty early on was through cockroaches.
Mm.
Okay, so we get signs from our guides through different messengers, animals, things like that. And within a 24-hour period, so yeah, we have cockroaches here in Hawaii, but the big ones, the big flying ones, those don't like do infestations in a house. You might get one random one flying in, and it's not like the little German ones that might be in a kitchen or something. So
Mm-hmm.
within a 24-hour period, I had 9 of these massive cockroaches only in my bedroom bathroom area in the house, nowhere else in the house. And my best friend, Jen, she was staying with me for 3 weeks after the death. I was like, Jen, oh my God, what, the cockroaches, like, what is going on? Well, so then because I love spirit animals, I love getting messages from the animals. I'm like, okay, what is the spiritual meaning of cockroach? And if you think about cockroaches are indestructible, right? They can survive microwaves and nuclear war and whatever chemicals. They are the survivors. And so that was the message he was giving me of like, you are a survivor. You can survive
Mm.
anything. You just keep moving forward. And so as soon as I acknowledged that message, and then the cockroaches, they stopped coming. And so now randomly they'll come and I'll be like, hi, Skip. And
Oh, hey, Skip.
yeah. So I mean, that was one of the most obvious times that he came to me directly. You know, he's
Mhm.
been there through scent. I'm kind of Claire, whatever the smelling
Yeah, me
was.
too. And it comes in a strong scent.
Yeah.
So much so it makes you turn your head and go, "Oh my gosh, my
Yeah.
father's here," or that's his cologne, or that's, something so significant and just specific. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. So
And
interesting.
so the first couple times he was coming through as a smell of stinky feet. And because he would be in his work shoes all day and like he would take the shoes off and I'd be like, oh my God, you gotta go wash your feet. And so after the second time, I'm like, you need to come as a different scent. I can't handle that stinky feet smell. And so how he came through then was something that was definitely him, which was the smell of pot, of weed,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
he was a regular pot smoker. And in
Hmm.
fact, that's one of the things that we have figured out as to what made him spin out into psychoses to actually
Mm.
follow through with the
Oh,
suicide.
wow. Wow.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah. So anyway, so now what like it's that year anniversary has come and gone, and it was actually harder than I thought it was going to be because there were some
Mm.
other things going on in my life. And all our team, we have our angel team, our galactic team, our spirit guides, our animals, all the things, our elemental guides. And I was like, oh my God, whoever is in charge of this, I need help. Please give me some help. And so this week, actually, it's very interesting. Something new opportunities have come my way to give me help for what I was asking for.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we just talked when? 2 weeks ago?
I think so.
Probably. Yeah. And it was right around the anniversary, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting that that happens that way. And, maybe there was some release that needed to happen through that combined experience during that time that allowed those new opportunities to come to you. Right. And we
Yeah.
don't see that until we're on the other side of it.
Right. Well, and what's interesting is so I know that there's some kind of change coming when I see 555 all the
Mm.
time.
Hmm.
And that when I decided to take that past life regression training with Denise Lynn, I kept waking up at 5:55 a.m. like every single day,
Hmm.
right on the dot. And so then I'm like, what does that mean? Change, change. Okay, I've gone through so many changes in my life. I just have to be open. And I'm like, this or something greater, this or something greater.
That's how it works, though. That's how it works. You're going to have this or something greater, always something greater, hopefully.
Yes. And so, you know, well, I don't know what the change is going to be about yet. There's one piece of it that I do know. But I like just 2 days ago, there was a massive new opportunity that came to me out of the blue that I don't know what the outcome is yet. I know what I'm focused on, but I'm doing my best to stay neutral to it
Hmm.
because it's going to be like this or something even better.
Hmm. No attachments, right?
Right.
Be
Right.
amazed. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And it's time for that. It's
Yeah.
time for that. Like the summer was we were in a space of being in receivership of new opportunities and creativeness and collaborations and old things ending and new things starting. And here we are with all these wind-ups that are starting with new things. So I can't wait to hear what happens. And since you're in the community, I'm going to hear about it, which is exciting. I have a couple questions for you.
Uh-huh.
And I know you're not done with your story, but I want to go back to those past life regressions. I'm wondering, did you uncover any things with galactic experiences from your youth, or from, when you were back there in that space doing and being connected and living that way, and then before you closed it off, and maybe when you closed it off? I'm just so curious.
Well, so what I know is that I had the group that I was taken, that I got to have the remembrance of the journey. It's a group that's not really known to Earth, to
Mhm.
humans here. They don't deal with humans that often. But so I was taken to a moon of Jupiter, Io, and
Wow.
the beings, I've searched in species almanacs and other things to see, okay, has anyone else described them? Who are they? Well, so one of my other psychic medium friends a few years ago, I'm like, let's find out like what who these people are. And so
Hmm.
when I was being toured around it, like I felt like they were my friends. Like I had been with them a
Mhm.
lot. And it turns out I'd been through with them throughout my entire childhood, but they I wasn't mature enough to remember the
Mm,
experience. Again, I was 15, but I was a wise teenager. Like I
I'm
very much
sure.
like and so um and what we discovered was that they are connected to the Arcturians. They're not Arcturian, but they're connected to them. But the Arcturians are such higher dimensional beings, they're more energy than they are physical. Um,
Mhm.
and so where this group was more similar to us humans in terms of density. And so the Arcturians had asked them to basically look after me, because in the experience, what I was told is that, because I was like, why am I here? Because I was being toured around, shown the operation of what they were doing. And they're
Mhm.
like, those of you that we're bringing here are being tested to see if something happens to Earth, if you can live in an environment like this or something similar. And that was back in 1988, where we're still in the Cold War. We're still on the verge of we are on the verge of World War III. So there really was a timeline back then.
Yeah.
And um, so the Arcturians were making sure that I could survive as Earth Lisa to do my mission here.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing that I discovered was that Uluru, the spokesperson for the Arcturian collective that I had met back in 2018, that was me in my Arcturian form. And the crystal that was given to me, so I'm a healer in that realm. Arcturians don't need healing because they're higher dimensional beings. But as a healer, I send healing down to me as Earth Lisa. And that crystal is the transmitter receiver for that
Mm.
healing energy. And so when I channel that healing energy, and the Arcturians, their primary strength is emotional healing. So really the underlying cause of a lot of things. And so when I'm channeling that energy, not only is it healing me, but it's healing anyone that really is in my energy field, in my space, and it's healing Mother Gaia as well.
Mm. Mm.
And so then what's interesting is that one of the lives I got to see was one of my Sirian lives, where I was an ET being from the Sirius star system. And it was during the time of the building of the pyramids. And it was way before what our textbooks say, super ancient times. And I, as a Syrian, was a genetic engineer. And so it was my job with my team. So we were in our spaceship and we were sending down this sound frequency to the Earth humans, we'll call them Egyptians, it wasn't called Egypt then, but to these humans. And what that did was it upgraded their DNA, it changed their genetics so that they could be able to run more energy through their body, hold more consciousness, because there were other Syrians of us that were boots on the ground teaching these humans things like medicine, agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
astronomy. And then also what I got to see was they were teaching them how to do the sound thought levitation process to really lift these megalithic stones to build the things like the pyramids.
There you go. There it is.
Yep.
Mystery solved.
Well, and what's super cool about that too is that I spent 2.5 weeks in Egypt this April, and there was one temple where one of our leaders, Mike, he was like, Lisa, come here. And he had been there before, but there were two places in the temple where the hieroglyphs were showing this levitation
Mm-hmm.
of a temple. And so, the temple's on the ground in the first scene, and it's got this energy field around it and levitated in the second scene. And so there are two places where this is shown. And so anyway, it's
Yeah.
always have validation.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And then you look at your Earth Lisa and what she did in her life and what she chose to study and the path that you had, which was so interesting that to go from, the science part of it to the mortgage part of it to the creative part of it is like so interesting in itself.
Right.
You were traveling. Yeah. You were just traveling to like the next part of what you were going to do. But that creativity was always inside of you and that super connectivity was always inside of you. And tapped in, to all that wisdom and inspiration and all of that was there. It just needed to be like you were just connecting it more strongly each time, each
Right.
reiteration of yourself. So
Right.
it's fascinating. Yeah, it's really cool. And your mind, all of the science that's a part of that, it's like it comes from your genetic imprint, all your soul body and who you are in every dimension, in all time and space, right? And you're just channeling it in different ways as you're experiencing your human experience. And I love it. I love the stories and I love being able to share that with our community and our audience. Um, but now I know in my future, I know I'm already like talking to people in my world about who's going with me to go see Lisa in Hawaii to do this trip. I already have people that want to do it with me, but I want you to talk about a little more about that because it's really, like you said, it wasn't a thing in the 80s and the 90s. It is now the world of which, we've got little phones, we've got handheld devices, we can constantly capture things, we've got the internet, we've got these platforms to share so easily. And that's what's happening. People are experiencing things, people are having their own realizations, and more people are sharing their channeling experiences. And like we're learning and people are being educated. And now you are giving them a real time experience to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I quickly learned was when you ask, especially coming from your heart,
Mm.
ask for them to show themselves, they
Mm-hmm.
will.
It's a frequency. Yeah.
It is. It
Mm-hmm.
is. And but you also have to trust and believe that
Mm-hmm.
it exists, it's real. And so because of the connection that I have, that I've always had, like I was always meant to be here. I'm a starseed. I've always meant to be here to be this bridge between them, to
Mm-hmm.
educate of they are benevolent, they're our family,
Yeah.
there's so much more than what movies and the government want to portray
Mm-hmm.
them as.
Yeah, they're not
And
fear, they're
so,
beautiful.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so getting to share that with my guests who come on my tours and really expand their minds. Every tour, everyone, because we do see the activity every time. And it's a little different every time, like who wants to show up and what behavior they want to do, but their minds are completely expanded. Even the ones that come dragged along by their spouse and they're the skeptical ones,
Mhm.
95% of the time, they are even expanded. It's planting the seeds.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
And
but it just shows them, okay, there's so much more than
yeah.
what we perceive is going on around us.
Yeah, and that's all it takes is
Yeah.
that one tiny little crack to
Yes.
break that narrative and that belief system that's been instilled in all of us. And once you see it, like they say, You can't not see it ever.
Yeah.
And, people are conditioned and they're afraid. And, we have a lot of things in common, as I said before. And the level of fear that shows up when you do something that's not the standard or the norm, or you do something that's opposite of, what they've seen in movies and TV and in the narrative, it's the little tiny cracks. It's the
Hmm.
scratch that turns
Yeah.
into something later. But it has to happen. And that's the reality that we're living in right now, because it's all changing and shaking and
It is.
moving. Yeah.
It is. And we
Yeah.
are like, again, so one of the things my Arcturians always love sharing is timelines.
Mm-hmm.
All the timelines are existing simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to stay in fear-based polarized Earth, okay, you can. Or
Mm-hmm.
do you want to come to where it's joy and love and unity and harmony and abundance and all
And
of that? Well,
exciting.
right? That's existing too. And so it's really where you're putting your focus.
Yes, absolutely. Perspective,
Mhm.
energy. That's what we keep talking
Energy,
about. Yeah, we
vibration.
keep talking about. Hmm.
Yeah.
So tell them about how they can find you, where they can, do you have anything that's really exciting and special that you want to share? I want to give you a platform to tell everyone everything.
Okay. Well, so I've got two different websites, but two different ways to get to my main website, which is drlisajthompson.com or Mystic Manta, like mantaray.com.
Mm,
My UFO tours are bigislandUFOtours.com. I have my connection to the cosmos with Dr. Lisa Thompson YouTube channel and the podcast outlets. I'm on social media, Facebook. I have several pages and groups, and then Instagram. And the things that I have upcoming are actually for 2025. I don't
mhm.
have anything made, at least, I mean, we'll see. I might create. I'm finally, like, after coming out of a year of feeling like I was in a cocoon,
Hmm.
I feel like I'm starting to reemerge out of the cocoon to start creating new projects again.
Yeah, because it's time.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, but what I have put in place, so the ETs have given me a unique healing modality called Galactic Ascension Channeling. And so this really is to clear away all the stuck emotions, the trauma, because the more that we're able to clear that out, we can maintain our energy in a higher vibration. We can
Hmm.
really come from a higher perspective and get over our judgments of ourselves and others and get out of the polarity. And so I'm actually teaching a certification program in February for that. So for people who are
Amazing.
in the healing field already and want to like really enhance that or just add on, that's really who it's geared towards.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm excited for you
Thank
as a
you.
teacher too. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
And
Yeah.
then April 30th to May 4th, I am doing my next Galactic retreat. So it's a 5-day deep dive into all things connecting to your galactic family to really open up the clair abilities and to do the night sky watch every night to really then see physically, what we're connecting to inward.
Mm,
But those are
that's
those are
amazing.
the exciting things I have coming up.
Yeah, well, they're very exciting. And I will put all of that information in the show notes. And I just, tell everyone, if there's something inside of you that has like a whisper or a pull towards it, go do it. Go do
Yes.
it. It won't be weird. It'll be exciting. It'll be something different. It'll be fun. Imagine the experience that you'll have. Imagine the people that you'll meet. Imagine things that you can't even understand that might happen. And that's where the magic is. That's where the fun is. And that's where that little crack or that little scratch gets broken wide open. Like you said, it could be the most interesting thing, because when we listen to those pulls, you have profound experiences that change your life. They change the trajectory of your life, as we have just heard by your story, and everything you never even thought you would be doing could present itself, right? So
Right.
that's an amazing example. And I'm so grateful to have you here today to share with our community. And I'm so excited that you have joined Spirit Calling. So you're going to be inside of the portal and people can find you. And it's a beautiful place to explore your spirituality. And, I hope to see you in the future in in person one day. That would be amazing, because you know that I'm being called to Hawaii. I have been being called and I want to go. So I would love to meet you in person. But that's all the time we have for today. And I just want to close this out by saying thank you again, and reminding our listeners that with every moment lies the call to listen to your spirit, answer it, honor it, and always live it. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time. I hope today's episode sparked insights for you on your healing journey. If you're searching for support and connection, you should join our community at spirit-calling.com. Spirit Calling is a like-minded community of spiritual individuals learning, sharing, and growing together every day. No matter what you're experiencing in your journey, you'll find resources and a community to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening to your internal guidance and stepping into your spirit's call.